Is performance sport going to be a lifelong career for you? If you are questioning that, or you're not sure, you haven't even thought about it, this is the rites of passage I'm about to introduce you to. Now, this is based on my own experience, but also it maps many of the 160 performance staff that I've spoken to over the last year and a half. So check this out. Let me know what resonates. If you're watching on Instagram or Twitter, then follow the link below and you can check out this full video. Okay, so this is phase one. This is student internship. Now, you're going to resonate with this, I'm sure. You take up the call to action in your life to break into performance sport. Very often people are single with very few commitments outside of sport, which means they can sacrifice the long hours, willingness to do all you can to break into the field, potentially into your first paid job, focus on upskilling, everything through the technical CPD lens, minimal boundaries, and say yes to everything. Now, this is kind of also ties into separation. And what this means is leads to many practitioners separating from their social life, separating from their values, from their needs, from their wants, get sacrificed because they're solely directly laser focused on their career because they're balancing study, internships, and making that desired impression. A quote from someone in my research: I didn't really stop to think at all of what I was trying to achieve or how I was feeling. I've just been head down towards success, trying to get validation from other people, success, education, then success in my career. So that's phase one. Phase two, progressing into senior role, more objective success, winning athletes, maybe it's papers published, maybe conferences spoken at, for example. Entry into leadership positions where you're recognized by your peers as successful. You're defined by your role in sport, and career still takes priority. Potentially you're entering into more serious relationship, marriage, struggling to maintain that quality in your personal life. And maybe you're entering into personal development work. Maybe, maybe not. Now, this is still the separation phase, very present, but often we're beginning to be called into initiation. But this really kicks in stage 3, which you're about to listen to. Again, another coach. The image of myself as a coach consumes my life. All the conversation I have outside of work stems back to work. I'm either at work or I'm at home reading up about stuff to do with work. I'm in the gym on my days off lifting. I don't really do much else. Work's great, but I don't do a lot else and I feel lonely. So phase 3, work life. Start to really think about this. Now, career progress still, significant leadership positions, potential parenthood, that the relationship is developing. But you're also starting to touch on significant overwhelm, realization that things must change, can't continue like this. You're beginning to feel the toll of missing out on social life. Maybe you've got low energy, overwhelm again, feel potentially trapped by your situation. A felt sense of pressure to keep progressing, and focus is still on your technical CPD. But you're beginning to seek new ways of understanding yourself for your life. Now, this is the initiation. So initiation is to make a major transition ourselves as a whole person, not just our role in sport. We confront challenges such as relationship breakups or losing our job. Opportunity to connecting with the deeper parts of ourselves that very often we've repressed. Aware of large cost to working in pro sport and a sense of being lost or unfulfilled, which is confusing because you're achieving all these things. Again, another quote: I felt panicked. I didn't know what else I needed to be doing to try to be achieving the thing, and also feeling like a failure and just not good enough. Panic of not knowing how to be where I was supposed to be, which was world class and respected of the thing. How do I stop myself being on this endless chase? Now, phase 4, crossroads. Beginning to review priorities, getting clarity on professional, personal values, clear vision of life, want to understand your purpose and reviewing identities. And this is the main phase that practitioners find themselves in when they reach out to me at Men Behind Sport. And this is what makes my job so amazing. I love being able to support performance staff in a way that I didn't have when I was in sport. And 2 quotes from different coaches. I basically did my head straightening out and some guidance to help me make up decisions in a different way that I'll be satisfied with. I didn't really have anyone within the network that I could actually had support. Again, the work was really good and I felt like I was being successful, leading a successful program. But outside of work, I had nothing. I bought a house, lovely house, bought a nice car, all that kind of nice stuff to try and fill and void. So when we get to this phase, there are 3 options. The first one, an adapted career. You started to integrate new perspectives, ideas. You sat with yourself to get crystal clear on what your inner drivers are and what makes you truly happy. So you are an adaptive role in sport. Role is less challenging, but much more flexible. You have many more options to be autonomous in your life and your career. You have more flexible hours. You're focused on family and quality of life. And so if you're in this phase or this sounds familiar to you and interest, some questions to ask yourself. What fears do you have about settling a career and progressing your family life? Is burnout a certainty by the end of the season? If yes, how long are you prepared to suffer this? What questions do you need to ask, and of whom, to allow you to get a better work-life balance? What does an ideal week schedule look like for you? And how much of your burnout is down to 1, physical hours worked, 2, energy drained by colleagues, 3, too many commitments? In other words, how much clarity in your role do you have? Second option, bottlenecked or pigeonholed. You either can't see the crossroads you're at, or you may well be choosing to ignore it. But when the signs are there and you choose to ignore them, the cost can be exponential. Higher workload, feel great pressure, potentially very well known you feel, but that keeps meaning you feel like you just got to keep doing. Questions to ask yourself: what are you pretending not to know, and what assumptions are you making? And this is a quote from a coach. Every night I come home to an empty house. Every night I was eating dinner on my own. I got to the point where after Rio I had enough, and I probably should have walked away, but then I hung on for another 12 months. And by the end of that 12 months, I was just totally burnt out. There were some days when I just didn't want to get out of bed, and that's a classic sign of depression. I started to rely more heavily on alcohol to switch off and to help me sleep and stuff like that. I lived on my own. I just couldn't see it. No one could point it out. Finally, last one. Third, exit strategy. And from my experience, this is the most daunting option because it can be so hard to see what skills you have that can translate into a different world. This leads to the initial, and I believe, limiting beliefs that our exit strategy should be based on our technical expertise. And I'm not saying ignore it at all, but just know that you have many more highly valuable skills that you take for granted every single day because it's just unconscious. Now, questions to ask yourself: why do athletes, coaches, friends come to you? What are your unique attributes as a person? And don't think about technical skills in this context. If someone needs to ask you help, what would they generally come to you for versus going to someone else for? Is there anything you've overcome that's inspired others? What is your zone of genius from their perspective? What are you best at? And what fears do you have about settling in your career and progressing your family life? Probably around identity. Now, I hope that's helpful. If that has, and you're interested and you want to kind of take this inquiry deeper, then that's what I do. I coach the coaches. So all you need to do is visit www.menbehindsport.com and book a free call, and we can have a chat. And we can just talk about this in more detail, where you are in your journey and how I can support you further. So thank you for listening, and please share this if you found this useful.